The boxes were half filled, the silence around me louder than the humming of the fluorescent lights above. I could still hear the echo of Elaine's voice from that final meeting, calm, calculated, wrapped in a silk of executive diplomacy. Dana, we're asking you to take accountability for the good of the company. The good of the company. I'd repeated those words in my head 100 times since she said them, trying to force them to make sense. But the more I did, the more absurd they sounded. There was nothing good about sacrificing the truth, nothing noble about letting a lie smother your name. I sat in the middle of my corner office, looking out across the fog-draped San Francisco skyline. 6 years of loyalty, late nights, navigating egos, mentoring juniors, delivering on impossible deadlines. And now my final project had become the weapon they'd use to erase me. A knock at the door. Priya, one of the junior developers I'd mentored, stood holding a coffee. I figured you could use one last decent cup before the HR coffee nightmare begins, she said, trying to smile. Her eyes betrayed her. Thanks, I replied, voice softer than intended. I read your exit email, she said. It was classy, too classy for them. I chuckled dryly. The truth didn't need to scream. Priya sat across from me, unsure whether to speak further, the unspoken question between us. Was it worth it? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. 2 weeks earlier. Dana, marketing says we need a release this quarter or we'll miss our window. You can make that happen, right? Elaine's question wasn't a request, it was an executive expectation coated in artificial sugar. We're still failing integration tests with the payment module, I said. QA flagged 2 regressions, and back-end services haven't stabilized. I need at least 2 more weeks. Elaine's smile never wavered. I know you'll make the right call. The meeting ended. I walked back to my desk, jaw clenched. Emails stacked up like a growing indictment. Stakeholders asking for demo access, finance demanding projections, support dreading the influx of tickets. I pinged Ravi, my lead developer. Dana, we need to triage payment errors. I need you on it now. Ravi, already swamped with back-end crash reports. Should I drop those? Dana, I'll talk to QA. Prioritize payments. We go live in 12 days. The daily stand-ups were beginning to feel like confessionals. Front-end's functional, but barely, said Alicia, our UX lead. If we push this now, we're sacrificing user experience. We don't have a choice, I said. Do what you can with what we've got. Ravi pulled me aside afterward. They're going to blame you if this goes bad. I nodded. They always do. The final week before launch was hell incarnate. Ravi's team managed to patch the payment bugs, but broke another service. QA flagged it. Elaine overrode them. Let's not be perfectionists, she said, sipping from a mug labeled Get *Tea Done. My calendar was a bloodbath. Back-to-back stakeholder updates, release readiness reviews, DevOps syncs. Everyone looked at me to pull this off. No one wanted to own the fallout. Everything broke. Checkout timed out for 70% of users. Accounts double-charged. Customer data was briefly exposed due to a session hijacking flaw. Slack erupted into chaos. Support drowned. Twitter crucified us. Elaine called an emergency town hall. I wasn't invited. Instead, I watched from the glass-walled fishbowl of my office as VPs and directors filed into the main conference room. My exclusion was deliberate, strategic, and it told me everything I needed to know. A storm was coming, and I was its designated casualty. The following morning, Elaine summoned me. Her assistant's message was void of emotion. Elaine would like to debrief at 9 a.m. The walk to her office felt like a funeral procession. Elaine sat poised, her tailored blazer wrinkle-free, her lips pursed in performative sympathy. Sit, she said, gesturing like a queen. She started gently. Dana, no one doubts your dedication. This project, this company, has benefited enormously from your leadership. I didn't respond. I knew what was coming. I'd seen this act play out before, with others, never thinking it would be me. There's a lot of heat from the board, and someone needs to be held accountable, she continued. They need a name, and if we don't give them one, they'll start picking their own. So, you'd rather offer me up before they pick someone higher up the chain? She didn't blink. You're a team player, Dana. I know you'll understand. I stood. I understand perfectly. Back at my desk, Ravi approached me hesitantly. I heard they're going to ask you to take the fall, he said. I'm sorry. I should have pushed back more. I wanted to scream, but instead I just nodded. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at the office, poring through emails, Slack logs, Jira tickets, anything I could find that might absolve me or shift the spotlight elsewhere. Somewhere in the digital paper trail, I hoped to find salvation. That's when I saw it. A pull request. Approved by Elaine. She had overridden QA flags on the payment module just hours before launch. She lied, and I had the receipts. The next morning, I confronted her. You bypassed the QA block yourself. I have the PR logs. You signed off. Elaine's eyes narrowed. Be careful, Dana. You don't want to make this messy. It's already messy. You just hoped I'd go quietly. Her smile chilled me. If you go public with this, you'll lose more than your job. Think about your reputation. Think about your career. It was a threat, clear and deliberate, and I'd never felt more alone. But I wasn't done yet. That night, I reached out to a journalist I knew, Kayla Grant, an investigative tech reporter who had a reputation for exposing corruption. We'd once crossed paths during a Women in Tech panel. I sent her everything, the logs, the emails, the directives. She replied within the hour. Meet me, off the record, for now. I had a choice to make, and if I walked away, they'd bury me. But if I stayed and fought, I could bring the whole damn house down. The morning after I met Kayla Grant, I found myself staring into the mirror of the office restroom, practicing the calm I no longer felt. You don't get to crack, I whispered to my reflection. Not yet. Kayla had been blunt. If you want this story told, Dana, you must be sure. Once it's out, there's no taking it back. I was sure. I just didn't know what I was risking beyond the obvious. My job, already gone. My reputation, crumbling. But there were other costs, more intimate ones, hidden under years of professional armor. Back at my desk, a new email from HR awaited me. Subject line, voluntary exit package, follow-up. Beneath its sterile formatting, I saw Elaine's fingerprints all over it. They wanted me out before I made noise. Silence packaged with a severance check. A payoff for betrayal. I didn't reply. Instead, I started deleting personal files, wiping traces, preparing. Not for departure, but for war. That evening, Kayla and I met in a discreet wine bar near the Mission District. This won't just burn Elaine, she said, glancing over the documents I had shared. If we print this, the board, the CTO, possibly legal, they'll all be implicated. I nodded. Good. She raised an eyebrow. You're not doing this to clear your name, are you? No, I admitted. I'm doing it to make them bleed. She smiled slowly. Now that's a headline I can work with. 2 days later, the company began tightening the noose. My access to GitHub was revoked. My calendar meetings disappeared. Colleagues avoided eye contact in the halls. Ravi pinged me in Slack. Ravi, just got pulled into a meeting about risk mitigation. I think they're building a case against you. Dana, let them. I have mine too. Ravi, be careful. Elaine's dangerous. Dana, so am I. Then came the first true blow. My ex Rachel texted me out of the blue. Rachel, hey, can we talk? I think something's going on at your job. Dana, why? Rachel, someone from your company called me. They asked questions about your mental health. I froze. Elaine wasn't just trying to ruin my career. She was trying to make me unhireable. The narrative was clear now. Dana, the unstable leader. Dana, the burnout. Dana, the liability. They were weaponizing my past. Back in 2019, after my breakup with Rachel, I'd taken medical leave for 2 months. Anxiety, depression, nothing unusual for women in tech burning the candle from both ends. But confidential, nonetheless, and now it was a tool against me. I called Priya. Have you heard anything? I asked. She hesitated. Dana, they're saying you signed off on the launch knowing it was compromised. That's a lie. I know, but HR's been talking to everyone. They're spinning this hard. My chest tightened. They have people scared, she added. Someone said Elaine hinted you had emotional episodes during crunch time. My eyes burned. They're rewriting history. Priya's voice softened. Not to me. Never to me. I hung up and opened the press draft Kayla had shared. The headline stopped me cold. The Scapegoat, How One Tech Company Sacrificed a Woman to Hide a Systemic Failure. The subhead, Executive Cover-Ups, Silenced QA Teams, and One Woman's Fight for the Truth. The article was thorough, meticulous, every Slack thread, every email chain, my documented warnings, Elaine's override, a full timeline. But what struck hardest was the ending. Dana isn't perfect. But perfection wasn't required, only silence. And when she refused that silence, the company turned her into a cautionary tale. I read the line again and again. This was no longer just about revenge. It was about survival, vindication, and justice. Elaine must have gotten wind. The next day, I was summoned again, not by her this time, but by legal. 3 suited men sat waiting for me in the glass cube known as Conference B. "Dana, thank you for coming," said one, smiling thinly. "We're conducting a routine review of post-launch activities and need your cooperation." They slid an NDA across the table. "Before we begin," I didn't touch it. "Is this about the PR logs?" I asked. Their eyes flickered. "We're simply gathering facts." I smiled sweetly. "Good, so am I." And I left. That night, someone broke into my locker. My backup flash drive, the one with the same files I'd given Kayla, was missing. But they hadn't realized I'd uploaded a copy to a secure cloud vault weeks ago. Elaine was getting desperate, and desperation makes powerful people reckless. 3 days later, the article dropped. Front page of Tech Exposure Weekly, syndicated within hours. Reddit exploded. Twitter turned rabid. Screenshots of Elaine's QA override flooded the feeds. Internal sources confirmed cover-ups. #ScapeGoat Dana trended globally, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. But revenge has a price. By the next morning, I was officially terminated. No severance, no references. Just a sterile, HR-authored email ending with, "We wish you success in your future endeavors." A few allies pinged me. Priya. "Elaine's panicking. Board called an emergency session." Ravi. "I'm sorry. I wish I could have done more." Kayla. "Congrats. You lit the match. Now let's see how far the fire spreads." I sat on my apartment floor, the city lights bleeding through the blinds, and let it wash over me. My career, possibly dead. My peace shattered. But the truth was alive, and it was screaming. The morning after the article exploded across the tech world, my inbox resembled a war zone. Reporters, ex-colleagues, strangers offering solidarity, recruiters whispering promises in the aftermath of scandal, all competing with the cold, automated silence of my former employer. But I didn't reply to any of them. I was already packing my suitcase. Kayla had warned me, "You're going to be radioactive for a while, Dana. Lay low. Let the fire burn before you step through the smoke." So I took a train south. Not far, just far enough to breathe. I headed to Monterey, where the ocean drowned out thoughts and the wind didn't carry whispers. But ghosts don't obey geography. It had been over a year since I last spoke to Rachel in person. The breakup had been messy. Too much work, too little heart left to offer, too many wounds neither of us had named aloud. I wasn't surprised when she showed up at my hotel. She didn't knock. She texted, "Rachel, I'm downstairs. I brought pastries." I hesitated, then replied, "Dana, come up, room 306. When she walked in, carrying a brown bag that smelled of almond croissants and regret, she looked me over like a crime scene. She didn't say, "You look tired." She didn't have to. We sat in silence for a while, picking at food we didn't need. "I read the article," she finally said. "Everyone did." She tilted her head. "You're calm." I wasn't, but I had learned not to show it. "I've been angry for so long," I said. "This is just a different shade of it." Rachel nodded slowly. "I told them nothing, when they called." My throat tightened. "I know. I hate that they used that part of you. It's not a secret I'm ashamed of, just one they never earned the right to exploit." She touched my wrist, a brief flicker of the past. "You don't have to fight them alone." I smiled bitterly. "I've always fought alone." "No," she said, voice firm. "You chose to. There's a difference." I looked at her, and for the first time I saw her not as the one who left, but as someone I'd pushed away, because I was afraid she'd see the cracks. That night we walked along the coast. The moon dragged its pale reflection across the water. "Remember when we used to come here before the conferences?" she asked. I nodded. "You'd always talk me out of quitting." "You always threatened to quit after a product launch?" she teased. "This time I didn't have a choice." She looked at me seriously. "Maybe not then, but you have one now. What are you going to do, Dana?" "I'm going to burn it all down." The next morning, I made a list. It started with names. Elaine, Thomas Park, CTO. He knew and did nothing. Greta from legal, who greenlit the severance NDA despite evidence of retaliation. 2 board members who had close ties to the VC firm backing the company, And the investors, I wasn't just going to expose them, I was going to dismantle them. Brick by brick, I started reaching out, not to journalists, but to former employees, disgruntled QA analysts, ex-engineers, a Devos lead who had vanished months before launch, people who had been forced out under mysterious restructuring decisions. They had stories and receipts. Kayla helped me build the case. We organized a secure forum for whistleblowers. Within days, we had 12 contributors and a pattern. Elaine had made scapegoats before. I was just the first who'd fought back. Then came the message that changed everything. Unknown number. You're not the only one they burned. I have something. Meet me. Attached was a screenshot of a confidential memo dated 2 months before the launch. Warning of the payment vulnerability. Signed by Thomas Park. I agreed to meet. The woman who arrived at the cafe was older than I expected. Mid-40s with a tired smile and wary eyes. Name's Marlene, she said. I ran security audits before they gutted the team. I flagged the session flaw. Elaine had it buried. I stared at the memo. It was damning. Why come forward now? Marlene's voice was steady. Because I watched them destroy you the way they destroyed me, and because I'm tired of being afraid. I added her evidence to the file. The reckoning had officially begun. A week later, Kayla dropped part 2 of the exposé. It named names. It revealed the cover-up, the prior warnings, the silenced audits. It quoted whistleblowers. It painted a picture not of a company caught unaware, but of one that had chosen profit over people, deliberately, repeatedly. And this time, I wasn't just the scapegoat, I was the spark. Elaine's LinkedIn went dark. Thomas Park issued a vague, guiltless apology. The company released a statement about organizational restructuring and renewed commitments to transparency. But the internet wasn't buying it, and neither was the SEC. Yes, someone had tipped them off. I was sitting in my Monterey hotel room when I got the call from an unfamiliar number. Miss Tran, this is Agent Halford with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. We'd like to ask a few questions regarding your former employer's conduct. I took a deep breath. The ocean whispered through the window, and for the first time in months, I felt power again. The interview with the SEC lasted 4 hours. They asked about timelines, authorizations, meeting transcripts. They probed the project workflow, decision trees, reporting hierarchies. They weren't just interested in the failed product, they were hunting for patterns, corruption, fraud, and I gave them everything. Emails, Slack logs, voice memos I'd recorded after Elaine's veiled threat, even the whistleblower statements Kayla hadn't published. This isn't just about ethics, Agent Halford said. It's about willful negligence, potential securities fraud. If they misrepresented product readiness to investors, that's a crime. For the first time, I saw fear move toward them, quietly, legally, permanently. That night, I returned to San Francisco. Not to my apartment. I couldn't stomach the memory of packing my things under HR's eye, but to Rachel's place. She had left a key under the mat. Same as always, a quiet gesture of trust. You're sure? I asked at the door. She only nodded. Inside, her place smelled of sage and lavender and the strange safety I never let myself admit I missed. You look different, she said softly. Sharper. Like someone who's seen the inside of the fire. I smirked. I didn't just survive it. I lit it. The next morning, I was back in the city. Everything felt different, slower, exposed. The company building now looked like a mausoleum. Then the news broke. SEC opens formal investigation into Lyria Tech following explosive allegations of fraud and retaliation. Elaine's name trended within the hour, so did mine, and not everyone was on my side. Bitter ex-employee weaponizing her failure. Scorned woman tries to burn it all down. Wasn't she the one in charge? Seems like she just can't take responsibility. But for every knife, there were 10 shields. Former employees, women in tech, advocacy groups, even competitors. Kayla published a third piece, this one more personal. Scapegoated, How the System Protects Power and Punishes Loyalty. She wrote about my silence in the face of mounting pressure, my leadership, the private fallout no one saw, the whispers about my personal life, the way Elaine had tried to control the narrative by weaponizing both gender and silence. She closed it with a quote I'd given her late one night. If truth is the match, then silence is the kindling. They built their empire on both, and I'm done being quiet. But just as the world turned in my favor, Elaine struck back. It started with a leak. Screenshots from my private messages with Rachel, years old, stripped of context, twisted. Then came the whisper campaign. Suddenly, companies that had courted me were retracting offers. A new rumor spread. Dana leaked the product herself for revenge. I knew exactly where it came from. Only a handful of executives had access to my HR exit file, and Elaine was at the top of that list. "She's trying to destroy your credibility," Rachel said. "Classic distraction play." "She's playing dirty," I muttered. "You're not surprised." "No, I'm just disappointed she still thinks I don't have teeth." That night I called in the last favor I had left. Marlene. The former security lead had kept her credentials after leaving, accidentally or maybe intentionally. "I'm not asking you to hack them," I said. "I know," she replied, "but you want evidence, real evidence, something they can't erase." She smiled. "Let me see what I can still find in their logs." Days passed. The SEC investigation expanded. A class action lawsuit was filed by customers affected by the launch bug. The board suspended Elaine and Thomas pending review. Still, it wasn't enough. I wanted the rot. The thing that would collapse the tower entirely. And then it came. Marlene met me at an old co-working space downtown. She didn't smile when she entered. She simply handed me a thumb drive. "It's not just incompetence," she said. "It's fraud. They doctored demo environments before every investor pitch. The code never worked. It was a Potemkin product. Smoke and mirrors." I opened the files, emails, code diffs, timeline manipulations. But what made my breath stop? An internal memo with Elaine's signature. "Ensure the demo environment is isolated. QA is not to be informed. All visuals must simulate transaction success, even if it's faked." The date? 1 week before Series C funding closed. Billions had changed hands on a lie. I sent it all to Kayla. I didn't need revenge. I needed justice. Kayla's final expose hit like a tidal wave. Fabricated success inside the grand deception that fueled Lyria's rise. This time there was no escaping it. Elaine resigned before the board could fire her. Thomas vanished from the press entirely. Greta from legal turned state witness, and the startup that had once been the darling of Silicon Valley declared bankruptcy within weeks. The final blow came when the Department of Justice opened their own investigation. Elaine's name was officially listed as a person of interest in ongoing inquiries related to securities fraud and obstruction. And me? I was no longer just a headline. I was the woman who said no to silence and made the entire world listen. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. I had won, technically. The headlines were damning, the company dismantled, Elaine disgraced. But there was no parade, no triumphant anthem, only the echo of war drums fading into air and the deafening weight of everything I'd lost in the fire. My inbox was flooded again, but this time with offers. Consulting gigs, keynotes, podcasts, board seats on startups who wanted to wear my scars like merit badges. "You're an icon of resistance. Your courage inspires women in tech. We need someone like you to cleanse our culture." It should have felt like vindication. It didn't. Because behind every compliment, I heard their subtext. "We want your pain packaged. Your story makes us look progressive. Be our cleaned-up warrior queen, just don't rock the boat again." I declined every offer for 3 weeks straight. Rachel brought me lunch one day, dropping a salad on my kitchen counter. "You know you can say yes to some things, right?" she said. "I'm not ready." "You've never been more ready, you just don't trust the ground under your feet." I looked up at her. Because I spent 6 years standing on a floor that was always shifting, and the moment I stopped adjusting, they pushed me off. A week later, I received a hand-delivered envelope. Inside, a letter on heavy, embossed paper. "Miss Dana Imani, we are writing on behalf of Ashbourne Capital to express our admiration for your courage and integrity. We'd like to offer you the role of executive partner in residence, full autonomy, build your own product, no oversight, your name, your terms." There was no catch, no PR stunt, no glass ceiling, and just trust, money, and freedom. I stared at the letter for 2 days straight. Then came the email from Elaine. Subject, "You won." I opened it. "You made your point. Loudly. I underestimated you. I should have buried the project sooner, but the board was hungry. You saw that too. I just chose to play their game. You didn't. You played your own. I hope you enjoy your moral high ground. Just remember, it's lonely up there." There was no apology. No admittance, only the final swing of a dying queen trying to claim dignity in ruin. I didn't reply. What would I even say? That she'd taught me how to weaponize silence, too? At night, I started dreaming again. Not nightmares this time. Dreams of blank whiteboards, quiet cafes, teams that laughed and built without the hunger for optics, places where code and humans mattered more than investors. I'd forgotten what it felt like to want again. I met Rachel at our usual spot, an old jazz bar downtown. We sat in the back, a candle flickering between us. "I think I'm going to take the offer," I said quietly. She sipped her wine. "I know." "You do? You're not the same woman who begged for their approval. You're not chasing redemption. You're building something they can't touch." I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd stood beside me when everything collapsed. Not to fix me, not to save me, but to remind me I wasn't lost. "I want you to come with me," I said. She raised a brow. "To Ashbourne?" "To the thing I'm building, whatever it is." Her smile was slow. "You sure? Because I don't take orders well." "Good. I don't want obedience. I want co-conspirators." 2 months later, we launched the stealth site, Voxura, not a product yet, just a name, a mission, and a manifesto. We believe in building technology with a conscience, not for IPOs, not for vanity metrics, but for people who still believe that systems should serve truth, not power. It went viral within hours. Investors came calling. Ex-Lyria engineers asked to join. Even Kayla wrote a follow-up piece. From scapegoat to architect, how Dana Imani is building a company the Valley can't corrupt. But the best moment? That quiet afternoon when Ravi sent a single message. I read the manifesto. It made me remember why I started coding in the first place. "Count me in, boss." I sat by the window looking out over a new skyline. This one wasn't fog-drenched or corporate or filled with ghosts. It was mine. I wasn't healed, not fully. I'd still wake up sometimes feeling the sting of betrayal, the acid of fear. But I had survived, not by playing nice, not by playing dirty, but by playing honest. And now I would build something with teeth and grace and memory, something no one could scapegoat again. 6 months after the launch of Voxura, Dana Imani sat at the head of a reclaimed wooden table surrounded by her team, her real team. The chaos of corporate betrayal felt distant now, a memory more than a wound. But ghosts have a way of finding you when the light starts to shine again. The first ghost arrived in the form of a LinkedIn notification. "Elaine Zhang viewed your profile." Rachel saw the look on Dana's face and asked, "You, okay?" Dana nodded, locking her screen. "Just a relic." Rachel didn't press. She didn't have to. Because 2 days later, the second ghost arrived. Email subject, "Lunch from Ravi Ramesh. Hey Dana, hope you're doing okay. I've been thinking a lot about what happened last year. You probably don't owe me the time, but if you're open to it, I'd love to meet. Not about a job, just closure." Dana stared at the email for nearly an hour. She hadn't spoken to Ravi since the day she walked out of Lyria with her name in the fire and her reputation burned. He had apologized, yes, quietly, hesitantly, but he'd still let her fall. Still stood silent while Elaine fed her to the wolves. But something about the message struck a chord. It wasn't groveling. It was tired, human, she replied. They met at a small Indian cafe in Soma. Ravi was thinner than she remembered, his face drawn, eyes shadowed. "You look good," he said. "You don't." He chuckled, a little embarrassed. "Startup life. I joined a crypto project that imploded after 3 months. Been consulting since." Dana sipped her chai. "And Elaine?" He hesitated. "She disappeared from tech. Word is she tried to pitch an AI ethics fund in Europe. No one bit." "So now she stalks my profile in silence," Dana muttered. "She lost everything, Dana. You didn't just survive. You won." Dana looked out the window. "Funny, it doesn't feel like a win most days." Ravi lowered his voice. "You didn't deserve what happened, and I should have spoken up. I was scared." "You were weak," she cut in. He winced. "Yeah." Silence stretched between them. "I was angry," Dana continued. "Still am. Not just at Elaine, but at everyone who said nothing, who watched me drown." "I know, and I get if you never trust me again. I just needed to say it." He stood to leave, but Dana surprised herself. "Wait," she said. "There might be a way you can make it right." The next week, Ravi joined Voxura, not as an engineer, as a systems advisor for the internal platform Dana was designing, one that tracked decision logs and ethical overrides in dev workflows. It was her answer to the problem that had burned her, executive deniability. No more shadow approvals, she told her team. No more blame with no receipts. And Ravi, to his credit, didn't just help build it, he evangelized it. But even as Voxura grew, Dana began to feel an old sensation creeping in again: paranoia. It started when a former Lyria intern, now working at one of their competitors, leaked a rumor. Someone's trying to buy your platform out from under you. At first, Dana dismissed it, but then came the offers. 2 major venture firms approached her in the same week. Both offered outrageous valuations. Neither cared about the mission. Rachel looked over the term sheets and frowned. These feels coordinated. Dana's stomach twisted. Elaine, she's locked out of the U.S. market. But not from pulling strings. Not if she wants to quietly dismantle what I'm building from the outside. That night, Dana couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, staring at an old folder from her Lyria days. Inside, a single printout: Elaine's override of the payment module. The trigger, the lie, the sin. She could destroy Elaine entirely. She still hadn't gone public with this document. It was the one piece she'd held back during the original takedown. Why? She wasn't sure. Maybe part of her thought keeping it made her stronger. Maybe part of her wanted to still have a bullet in the chamber. By morning, she decided, she would finish what she started. She contacted Kayla again. There's more. One final piece. The article dropped 2 weeks later. Executive Ghosts, the hidden hand behind one of tech's largest product failures. This time, it named Elaine explicitly, not just for the override, but for knowingly hiding it during investor audits, for coercing teams, for quietly collecting bonus payouts even after the collapse. The SEC opened an inquiry within 48 hours. Elaine responded the only way she knew how, by threatening to sue. Her cease and desist arrived by courier. Dana didn't even open it. She sent it straight to her lawyer, then went for a run. She had nothing left to fear. Elaine had already taken everything once. Now Dana had built her own kingdom, brick by scorched brick. But power changes people, even the righteous ones. Dana started staying later in the office, reviewing every line of code, questioning every decision made without her, demanding daily updates from her product leads. Rachel confronted her one night. "You're doing it," she said, "becoming her." Dana looked up, startled. "You're leading with fear," Rachel added, "not trust." Dana sat back, breathing hard. "I just don't want it to happen again," she whispered. "It won't," Rachel said, "unless you make it happen." That night, Dana wrote an internal memo. "If we become what broke us, we lose. Our platform must be transparent, and so must I. If you see me repeating old sins, call me out. We are building something different. Let's act like it." The memo went viral internally. Someone leaked it. TechCrunch reposted it under the headline, "Revenge isn't the endgame. This CEO is building through accountability." And so, Dana continued, haunted, yes, but also healing. The ghosts would never go, but she no longer feared them. Because this time, when they whispered in the shadows, she had her own voice to answer. The article hit Dana's desk on a Tuesday morning. Scandal inside Voxura, whistleblower claims CEO ignored sexual misconduct allegations. The headline scorched through the office like wildfire. Dana stared at her screen, fingers frozen above the keyboard. There was no mistaking the implications. The article didn't name names, but it didn't have to. The insinuation was enough. Rachel burst into her office, already pale. "Is this real?" "I don't know," Dana said. "No complaints have ever come through HR." Then someone bypassed protocol. Dana's heart pounded. "Get me everything, now." The story was vague, quoting an anonymous source who claimed a senior male engineer had repeatedly harassed a female intern during a company retreats 3 months prior. The article accused Dana of willful ignorance and protecting inner circle talent to maintain company momentum. A single quote made Dana go cold. "She was a victim once. You'd think she'd know better." The internal review started immediately. Rachel and Dana sat with HR to audit every complaint, message, exit interview, and Slack channel. They found it, buried in a post-exit form. An intern named Lila had submitted a flagged comment. "My departure was due to feeling unsafe around a specific team member who made repeated inappropriate remarks." No name, no follow-up, no formal complaint. But the comments matched a timeline. And the person in question? Ravi. Dana didn't want to believe it. She refused to at first. But when she called Lila and offered to meet confidentially, the truth came out. He would corner me late at night, Lila said, voice trembling. Nothing physical, but enough to make me afraid to be alone in the kitchen. Why didn't you come to me? Dana asked. I saw what happened at Lyria, how you had to fight to be heard. I didn't think anyone would listen. Ravi denied everything. She's exaggerating. I might have made a comment or two, but never anything serious. She's trying to get attention. Dana stared at him. You think this is about attention? You're throwing me under the bus, he said bitterly. After I helped you rebuild. You helped me fix a system you learned how to survive in. That doesn't make you immune from scrutiny. The decision to let Ravi go was made within 24 hours. Voxura issued a public statement. We have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment, no matter the level, no matter the person. We have reviewed internal processes and are implementing mandatory training, as well as a new reporting mechanism that bypasses the chain of command. The fallout was brutal. Investors got skittish. 3 clients paused onboarding. Social media exploded with calls to cancel the company. Dana went silent for 3 days. She didn't do interviews and didn't defend herself and didn't tweet. She just listened. Then she wrote something else, a letter, public, personal, honest. I once lost everything because a system built on silence used me as its shield. I swore never to become part of that silence. But silence crept back in through oversight, through busyness, through trust unchecked. I failed to create a space where someone felt safe coming to me. That is my fault. Not because I condoned what happened, but because I didn't know it happened at all. Leadership isn't just building new platforms, it's dismantling old shadows. And some shadows look a lot like your friends. We will do better. I will do better. This is not about my redemption, it's about every person who walks through our doors and deserves to leave whole. Asterisk. The letter went viral, again, but this time it wasn't just praise. There was real scrutiny, real dialogue, and Dana welcomed it. She sat for interviews, met with advocacy groups, and implemented a radical transparency model that would later become standard practice in other tech firms. 6 months later, Voxura bounced back, but different, leaner, stronger, wiser. Dana rebuilt her inner circle with new voices, people who'd challenged her, questioned her, called her out when she led through fear instead of vision. Rachel stayed. So did Lila, who returned as a full-time employee. One night, over drinks, Lila asked, "Why didn't you run? Most people would have." Dana stared out the window, watching the city lights blink back like stars. Because the first time, I didn't have a choice. This time, I do. 1 year later, a plaque stood in the lobby of Voxura's new office, etched in glass. To those who were told to take the blame, we build for you. Dana often found herself pausing in front of it before starting her day. She still had nightmares sometimes, of the glass-walled fishbowl office at Lyria, of Elaine's smile, of silence. But she woke up each time to something stronger, clarity. This was never about vengeance, not truly. It was about accountability, rebuilding what power had once broken. Her story wasn't just survival, it was reinvention. And the fire that once consumed her, it now lit the path forward.